Everybody to this session. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone from where you are from. My name is Harriet Naiga. I'm a midwife, and I'm the founding director of midwife-led community transformation, MILCOT, which is a community-based organization in Uganda that brings midwifery services closer to the community through preventive initiatives. And we focus on prevention of teenage and unplanned pregnancies. Well, I'm one of the success stories of Nursing Now Challenge, right from the beginning until now. And I have really benefited from a number of programs that Nursing Now Challenge has brought. And definitely this is an amazing program, the Global Book Club, and where today we are having a session, the Global Book Club, with Dr. Sally Pezaro. I'm really excited about this session because it's highlighting the book that is Surviving and Thriving in Midwifery. Having come from Africa, where I practice amidst a number of challenges with meager resources, it means midwifery at a number of times it becomes hectic. But what pushes me forward is my purpose and the people that I have to serve in the community. Well, I serve in the community where we get closer to marginalized adolescents and young adults in my organization, and working and collaborating with a number of organizations and public health facilities. And definitely lack of resources is one of the challenges that we do have. And that means it impacts on how my work progresses. And definitely I need to survive and thrive. So perusing through this book has given me really a good motivation, because it brings out many experiences from around the globe. And that is something that I have really liked about this book of Dr. Sally. And we hope that we shall all enjoy it when the link is shared with us to be able to access it. Thank you very much. That is me in brief. And what we are going to have in the session, we are going to have Dr. Sally taking us through the book and perhaps discussing some of the themes in the book. And then we are going to have a panel of 3 early career midwives who will lead the discussion still with her. And then after, we shall have questions and answer. We shall have Dr. Sally respond to these questions. And please, let's feel free in this session so that we benefit from it. So I am going to hand over to Dr. Sally so that she can take us through the book and the themes that she would love us to know. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Sally.
Thank you very much, Harriet. Nice to see you all, and thank you very much for coming to this book club. This book, I've got it here. Oh, upside down. I've got it. It's like a kind of labor of love that I've wanted to do. And while it's not a huge, as in it's not a very thick book, it's taken a long time to kind of get everything together and get some really meaningful insights in there. I myself have had quite a difficult midwifery journey. And so I wanted to kind of use my experience to help other midwives where they may be struggling. It's kind of the gift to my younger self of, what I wanted to know when I was earlier in my career that would have helped me survive better. And I did survive, and now I think I'm getting to the thriving part. So I wanted to kind of help other people do the same, because I kept hearing the story of everybody struggling and everybody not having exactly the same struggles, but the themes were recurring in terms of what people were trying to overcome in terms of well-being, in terms of leadership, in terms of the profession, etc. So this was really that book. And there aren't any other books really out there like this. They're very it's very practical, it's very kind of research-driven, evidence-based. And I worked with Dr. Karen Ma, who's an amazing occupational psychologist, who has many skills I do not have, so that when I was describing issues I wanted to address, Karen was able to put a psychological lens on that and add in tools and kind of knowledge and evidence bases to put in practical ways of working with the problem and overcoming the problem. So we weren't just talking about the problem again, it was actually a solutions focused idea within each chapter. So within each chapter, you have these tools and evidence-based kind of ways to overcome your challenges. And there's also discussions in there with myself and Karen about how I overcame challenges or didn't, or what I experienced, etc. So like a little interview at the end of each chapter, talking about whatever the chapter's talking about. But what I'm most excited about was the fact that this could be really global in terms of adding a multitude of voices in this, because I know that in different parts of the world, midwives practice differently. We have different challenges, etc. But we are one profession. And so I didn't want it to be a book that just came from one country or one voice or one perspective or point of view. I really wanted that global perspective to come in. So it was actually the Nursing Now Challenge when I came to them and said I wanted to do this book that helped me in terms of getting people together and telling. Some people told just like one-liners that were just like gems, like dust of gold that you could put in and use for future reference. But other people told their stories and said, this is where I've been, this is where I've come from, this is what I've overcome, and this is what I've achieved. So those inspiring stories that don't just come from me or kind of Karen, come from other people around the world with lived experience in terms of their own midwifery journeys, that I'm hoping will inspire not just student midwives, but other midwives at different points in their careers that can kind of pick this book up, read it through, but also go back to the different chapters at different points in their career when they need help in certain areas. So for example, I'm just going back to the content. So we start, I know we're going to cover some of these chapters today, but just starting with an introduction, we look at the history, for example, where have we come from in terms of a profession, where are we now and where are we going? I thought that was a really important grounding point to go through. And then we just go through professional identity, which is something I've been really passionate about. Again, who are we, what is a midwife, etc. And we've done some work together on professional identity with the Nursing Now Challenge. We did a big international study on that and a big international one on leadership as well. So those areas were really starting to grow in my mind, thinking about how do we survive and thrive, not just as individuals, but as a kind of a whole profession. Then it kind of goes into surviving and thriving the day to day, which is just, how do you get through the day when stuff's being thrown at you and stuff is stressful, and, getting those coping tools in place early on, because those challenges will come. And sometimes it's not about getting rid of the challenge. It's about, okay, how do we just navigate our way through this? We've got workplace challenges. So people talk a lot of the time about bullying in midwifery, hierarchies in midwifery, having your voice not heard, not being able to advocate either for yourself or who you're caring for. So how do we overcome that, and actually not just talk about overcoming it, but what do you do? What do you say in those situations when you find yourself being challenged in those certain ways? Then interpersonal relationships, looking at how do you deconstruct what's happening in the team? How do you work within a team? How do you overcome incivility, basically, in practice? And then when things go wrong as well. So this was mainly thinking about when clinical things go wrong, how do we reflect? How do we learn? How do we grow? How do we avoid blaming each other or blaming other people, and actually just having that accountability to be that reflective practitioner and get better? Then evidence-based practice and academia, that was really me saying, midwifery isn't just about catching babies. I mean, that's what people think it is a lot of the time, and that's part of the problem where, people don't understand how diverse our skills are. And I've gone from clinical practice into academia, so I wanted to do something around how do you do that? How do you survive and thrive in academia if you move away from clinical practice, or perhaps you're a clinical academic and you want to bridge those two? And also leadership. So we've done lots of work on leadership, like I said, but I wanted to talk about how everybody's a leader. So not just the people in those top jobs, but how everybody looks at their own leadership skills and how everybody thrives as a leader and leads initiatives at any level really, and supports other people to do the same. And then the last one is turning visions into practice. So everybody's got these great ideas about what they want to do in midwifery. You know, we all come into the profession with a dream of what we want to achieve. How do we turn those visions into practice? And that's really about how do we not wait for permission, but actually get going and get started on our dream. So they're the main chapters, and that's what I wanted to cover. I couldn't cover everything because I don't think I can speak about everything, but having everybody's voices included in this was really special for me. So I wanted to thank people who've already read it or already bought it or already sharing it with their peers or making sure their students have access to this. And I welcome your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sally. That was really, really amazing. It's really a book that contains quite a lot that can benefit us. I loved the way you have brought out the leadership part, and you being in the leadership position at the Research Center for Health and Communities at Coventry University as the program director. So this book, I'm sure, has brought out a rich experience, perhaps where many midwives would love to be. And then you have talked about bringing vision into action. Every midwife has a vision. So how does she bring it into reality? So reading through your experience for many midwives, I believe will be really a good blessing that they can tap into. Thank you very much. At this point, we are not going to go into questions because Dr. Sally will speak again after the panel. We have an amazing panel of 3 early career midwives. We have Michelle Holden from UK, and then we have Sana Girl from Pakistan, and then Sanel Lokal from South Africa. So welcome to the panel. I believe you have quite a lot for us, and we can't wait to hear from you what you have to say. Let's go to Michelle Holden from UK. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thank you, Harriet, and hi, everybody. Hi, Sally. My name's Michelle. I am a midwife from the UK. I work in the east of England, and I work in our low-risk birthing unit mostly, but do kind of cross both. So just thank you, Sally. Your book is amazing. I'm partway through it. I've already shared it with all my colleagues. I think it's fab. I'm really passionate about kind of supporting our students and our newly qualified staff. So I was asked to reflect on your introduction, and there were so many different kind of bits in it that I found it really hard to kind of narrow down. But I wanted to ask really about the importance of encouraging midwives to move from surviving into thriving when our reality in kind of NHS is that there's a lot of kind of occupational and organizational pressure that we're under, and thriving can then seem like a privilege rather than like a baseline. So I wonder, how do we support our midwives that are in survival mode, and how do we talk about thriving without making people that are struggling or surviving feel like they're failing in something or in some way?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. Personally, I would probably argue, and Karen might disagree, I would probably argue that you can't really thrive if you are only surviving. You have to get out of that survival mode before you get into the thriving mode, because it's very chaotic when you're in that survival mode. It's not a place where you can get your thoughts together well. It's not a place where your confidence is high. It's not a place where you feel you can reach out for help. It can be a really dark place sometimes. So I think my advice would be, first of all, to get support, like reach out for help in terms of if you find yourself just in survival mode, reach out, talk about where you are and where you're at. And if we're supporting people, we really need to listen to those people when they ask for help. We need to stop having this hero culture and hero narrative of just, come on, keep going, this is who we are. That's what it is a lot of the time. And that's to our own detriment. You know, we talk about the privilege of midwifery. Well, if it's a privilege, then you shouldn't be struggling because it's a privilege to do this job. It's not a privilege. It's a highly skilled job that we all do, because we're highly skilled practitioners and the job needs doing and it needs skilled people to do it. We don't do it for the money, let's be honest. So, you know, if we're doing it for those reasons, then we shouldn't just be surviving, we should be thriving. So we need to support cultures where it's not about privilege, it's not about being a hero, it's not about being, you know, better than everybody else. It's a supportive and compassionate culture where everybody can overcome whatever challenges they have, you know, with support. And then you get into thriving mode because, you know, I see all these student midwives coming into the profession. They're so eager, they're so excited to become midwives. And then the reality comes in that it's not all rainbows. And when that happens, they can kind of fade and wither into nothingness. Even kind of experience, like people with life experience. So they're coming in with lots of life experience. They're not particularly young. And they're coming into the profession. They say, you know, I've been around, you know, in this industry, in that industry for however many years. No one's going to bully me. They come into midwifery and they say, oh my gosh, I've never had this before. I'm out of my comfort zone, and that needs to be on everybody really to say, why are we making those cultures a place where, you know, they just shouldn't exist? Why are those cultures still staying around? No one can thrive in those cultures, and even if you are thriving in those cultures, you're probably, you know, contributing it in some way, because, you know, it's about if you are thriving in that kind of space, then you might be contributing to it. I'm not saying definitely, but a lot of the things in this book are about questioning yourself because you could be the problem. Like, and that's about the reflective thing, I think. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's how we can move towards that.
Yeah, it definitely does and really resonates as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michelle, for that question that brought us to the interaction with Dr. Sally and how she has brought out the alignment of surviving and thriving. I imagine how we find many midwives just surviving in the environment where we are working in, and they haven't yet got the opportunity to see the other side of thriving. I feel that thriving is the area where we actually even utilize the opportunities that they have amidst them, or putting their head further and see something that might be beyond surviving. So this book, I still encourage everyone to read it. So let's have Sana from Pakistan. Welcome, Sana.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Dr. Sally, for being here. So I am a nurse by background from Pakistan, and currently I'm a final year student midwife at University of Birmingham in UK. I read chapter 8, to be honest, and I loved the conversation with Franco, the past ICM president in the book. Something really hit me during that conversation, and I decided to ask a question from the conversation, really. But there were so many other questions I needed to ask. I don't know if I'd get the time, but I will start with the conversation part.
Okay.
Where she said that she really had to fight sometimes, where she was very frustrated to bring midwives at the table and kind of persuade people that we do need midwives at the table. And when she was successful to bring some of the midwives at the table, she had to be there with them to support them, to ask the right questions, to be there and attend the meetings. And from Pakistan, it really hit me because we have seen it at so many levels, not at the higher level, like in global profession, global representation, like in ICM. I would like to ask you, but giving a kind of an presentation that how it's done in Pakistan, for example, if it's an obstetrician, a doctor, they're coming from privileged backgrounds. Before going to medical school, they're already privileged. They have traveled the world. They are very competent in languages, in their communication, and then they go to medical school, and then they go abroad, like in high income countries like US and UK. They come and do their specialization and come back home and get into those roles. When it comes to midwifery, midwives are usually from very underprivileged backgrounds. from villages, and they only have done their schooling. To be honest, not most of them haven't completed their high schools even, and they are not degree. We don't have a degree program in midwifery at all. We only have a diploma, and then they are not competent in languages, not in much confidence in speaking and sitting at the table. So when we're talking about the presentation and what Franco told about, and also she spoke about representation and diversity in the board in an organization like ICM. So how we bring those midwives at the table with an obstetrician in the same region and enable them to speak up and get the right questions in there.
Well, I think there's two things that come to mind when you talk about that. The first one is the hierarchies. So, you know, obstetricians are above midwives and all of that stuff, which is absolutely rubbish, but it exists in people's heads, and you have to kind of clear that out the way. But I agree, it's socially there, as in who answers to who, and it's not even about that, but that's the way it is. So again, that's about professional identity. So who are we? Where are we going? What are we doing? What are we about? And there's a lot of scarcity narrative around that. So people, I think, in midwifery are very kind of like, oh my gosh, midwifery is, you know, a profession in danger. We have to hold on to whatever scrap of nothingness we've got. And so they hold on to it rather than saying, how can we grow? How can we develop? How can we be innovative? How can we be progressive? Because they're so scared of losing what little they have. They're afraid to move forward with it. I think I see that a lot, and that's professional identity. Even in the UK, I see that. And I can't speak for every context, but I've seen that a lot around the world. And also it's about giving yourself permission, or because people wait for permission. Midwives is, am I allowed to do this? Can I do that? Can I? And I'm just like, why are we waiting for permission? No obstetrician would wait for permission, because they say to themselves, I'm the obstetrician, this is what I do. And we need to say, I'm the midwife, this is what I do. And in terms of who joins the profession, I think, I don't know what we can do there, because I don't want to exclude anyone from the profession, but I think we can think about being a diverse profession. We're not very diverse at the moment, and I think we could be more diverse. And once we become more diverse and inclusive, we encourage more people with different skills to come in, which means we can all learn and grow from each other. I think it's also about seeing people in those positions. So, for example, a lot of people look at Franca, and she's a strong speaker, she's a strong leader, she walks the walk as well as talks the talk, you know. So we need those role models around that can show people how it's done. So, you know, what can I share that I've done that other people can learn from? So, for example, last year I published international clinical guidance on the management of hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in childbearing. And, you know, if I'd have said, oh, well, that's a clinical guideline, I can't just publish a clinical guideline, yeah, I would never have done it. You know, I didn't ask for permission. I didn't go to NICE guidelines or NICE guidance. I worked with a charity and published them in PLOS One myself. So a lot of the time, it's kind of finding workarounds and saying, I need to do this. I'm not going to ask anyone's permission. How do I do it? You find a way. It's not easy. It's difficult, and it was a long journey to do it. But then you do that, and then other midwives go, oh my gosh, you did that. What can I do? I want to do this. Well, she did it. I can do it. And I think there should be more of that, which is probably what Frank is doing when she's bringing people along to the table. She's showing them, this is how you do it, and this is, you know, what you ask and how you work. And if you are junior, you know, everybody's going to struggle with that kind of stuff. It's pressure. It's what you do. I'm not sure I'd know what to do at that table. And be politically correct and say the right things and play the game. I'm sure there's lots of political games you can play. So I think everybody's going to struggle in that situation, but the more role models we have, the more we can get people to kind of step up when they need to, because we need midwives everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sana and Dr. Sally, for that amazing response. Sana, that was very, very important. According to my experience, having gone through the program of the International Confederation of Midwives as a young midwife leader, that has helped me actually to meet with Frank Card on one-to-one. And we have discussed quite a number of things. And I remember one thing that she told me, that Harriet, never let anyone cover your perception wherever you are, whether it's a big meeting, whether it's a very big platform. Always remember that you have a say and you can even bring out your advice. Also, don't forget to say no. If your feeling is a no, say it, whether to a big leader or these intermediate leaders. So that has kept me strong. However much I had my own motivation towards leadership in midwifery and what I love to change in midwifery, but her being a leader at that level and what she has always discussed with me, I felt that kind of added motivation that we can actually do big. So she talked about having these role models in midwifery if they come up. As the book brings to us different midwifery leaders, for example, Frank Card and the rest, I also have some piece in there. So if a midwife reads this book and she gets to know these people, she can't fail even to connect, you get. So it's also, so this book is also a beginning of connection for many midwives who will have the opportunity to read it. So you have talked about Pakistan, having midwives who still feel low, but we still also have midwives there who are great. We have a midwife called Niha Makani from Pakistan, and she's really doing a lot of work in motivating and developing midwife leaders in Pakistan. So we hope that this kind of connection and collaborations continue to grow, and still this book is an opportunity. So let's have Sanel. Sanel, you are welcome. We are happy to hear what you need to interact with Dr. Sally.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanele Lukele. I'm from South Africa. I currently work at the University of the Western Cape as a midwifery lecturer. And Prof. Pezaro, you know, when you started and then you were telling us about the book, actually when I saw the contents page, because I haven't had a chance to go through the entire book as yet, I thought, yo, this is literally a labor of love. You know, this is a book you buy for someone. This is a book you buy for yourself and you never give away, because you'll always have to go back to it for something. And this is a book that transcends geographical locations, and anyone, no matter which stage of your career you are, can actually read this book. And this is a book for everybody, basically. So when you were talking about it, I was like, oh, I'm so glad we can actually see the intention. You know, when you said why you wrote the book, it's coming out so clearly, even in how you've laid out the chapters. So I read chapter 9. Which is the chapter on goal setting and turning visions into practice. And what I loved about this chapter, because we're always doing goals. I mean, I was doing goals just the other day, doing goal setting. But this chapter is not only focused on timelines, because when we do goals, we are so focused on the outcome. And I loved it because for people like me who are very hard on themselves, if you don't achieve a goal, the way you've set out the goal setting and using the framework also that is in the book, is that it's focused on the process of achieving a goal instead of like the outcome. It's very process orientated, and it's very what have you learned in the process, you know? And also it gives you the opportunity that if you fail or you don't achieve the goal, you can start over. In the book, you say that this is a cyclical process. Like it's so forgiving. Like I felt like it's like your big sister talking to you. Like and also I also loved that in a world where everyone is pointing at somebody that this is like this because this person did this. America doesn't want to give us funds. Trump is doing this, or like in the South, we always talk about the global South and the global North. But this book takes away all of those politics, and you basically say, that you are the answer to the problems. I think you say somewhere that be the change you want to see. Yes, be the change you want to see. So I loved so much the mindset shift that you bring about in the reader, and that you are the solution. And then you go on to give steps on how to actually work through the goal setting, which I thought was great. So now my question is, have you always, like, you come across as so confident and so like you aim high and you work towards your goals. Like, have you always been like that? And then, or was there an event in your life, or was there something that happened that made you also like have that aha moment for yourself and have that mindset shift? I'm asking this because I'm asking for those of us who still have to make that, to cross that bridge and get to the other side. Just to ask, how was your process like? I don't know if my question is clear.
No, it is clear, but I'm not always confident. I think that's grown over time. I've always been aiming high. Like I've always wanted to aim high because, you know, I didn't get into the midwifery profession to do nothing for, you know, however many years. So I've always aimed high. But the big problem I had was the higher I kind of aimed, the more people kicked me down to begin with. Like I talk in the book about tall poppies and those people that put their head above the parapet and want to do exciting things and innovative things. And I was that midwife, and it got me in trouble, and it kind of knocked me down rather than pulled me up. So yeah, it was clinical practice, and where I was working at the time, you know, I got really ill. I couldn't do it anymore, and I was really kind of having, you know, really, if you read through the book, you'll kind of read the interviews with me as to what I went through. But it was really about not only moving to academia, which was an amazing jump for me, and that was, you know, I think where I should have been much earlier on, but because I feel like I can make more impact in this area. You know, when I was working clinically, it was one person at a time, or one group of people at a time. But with research, I feel like I can influence thousands of people at a time. You know, so that influence is much larger for me, and that impact for me, for what I want to achieve, is there in academia. But it wasn't just about the change from clinical to academia for me. It was the change of people, because sometimes you can't change people. Like it would be great if we could, if we, you know, that's the goal really, to change cultures, improve working cultures. But where you can't improve cultures, you're just in this toxic environment and you wither. And so it was not just about the change of practice for me, but also about the change of people. So the people around me now, or the people I choose to surround myself with, are people who lift me up. They're not people that bring me down. And if people start to pull me down, or I feel like they're trying to, I mean, they can disagree with me. It's not about that. It's about, yeah, it's about pulling people down. And when I see someone doing that, I move away really quickly. And I'm just like, you know, you're not for me. I'm not looking for that kind of stuff in my life. And I gravitate towards people who are innovative, who are forward thinking, who are excited about change and progress and those kind of things. And so for me, it was about the people, or, you know, the community I surrounded myself in. And at the moment, I think a lot of my ability to thrive is not just because of who I am and what I do and my confidence and skills and talent and all that. It's about the people I work with. And, you know, it's about Nursing Now Challenge, because I couldn't do this without Nursing Now Challenge. You know, and people at Nursing Now Challenge believing in what I'm doing and being excited about what this can achieve and what we can do. And, you know, I talk, you know, if I say, you know, a crazy idea to Nursing Now Challenge, they don't put me down. They say, oh, that's interesting. Let's think about that. And same with my manager. Yes. So same with my manager, you know, if I've got a crazy idea and I say something to her, she doesn't say, oh, shush, Sally, and get on with your job. She says, oh, that's interesting. Write down your plan, write down your actions. And so because I'm in that environment where people build me up rather than pull me down, that's how I get to achieve. And that's how I get to move forward. And I want to be, you know, not only doing that, but doing it for other people. So when people come to me and say, I want to publish this paper, I want to do this piece of research, I want to achieve this, I want to pull them up too. And that is what I think builds that positive culture. And also, you know, I left clinical practice 10 years ago now. It may well be different. Research shows it's not that much different, but you know, I have heard good stories, so it's not all bad. And anyway, I hope this book will kind of, if anyone is in that situation, they'll at least have the tools to advocate for themselves. Because some people, you know, just need to kind of stay where they are but overcome challenges, and not everybody can leave into different areas of practice, and I understand that as well, and some people are limited. There are limited career progression pathways for midwifery, which is also a whole different challenge. But yeah, surround yourself with people who are going to bring you up rather than push you down, and then it's less about your confidence because that's already there. Like you say, oh, I'm not on that side yet, I'm yet to get there. You're already there, in my view. It's just that maybe you're not this, you know, you're the seed, but you're not in the right plant pot to grow yet. If that makes sense. But if you find the right plant pot, you'll bloom.
Oh, that's really amazing. That's really amazing. Thank you very much, Sanel, for that question. And thank you, Dr. Sally, for your response. Actually, when she talked about be the change that you would love to see, that is the genesis of the great work that comes up to change lives, to change leadership, to change academia, everywhere. So I think we have had a situation in the past where midwives have been there facing challenges, and what they want to do, what they have had to do is to sit back and complain. But complaining in a way that is not really formal, in a way that cannot be listened to, or in a way that cannot even harness creation of solutions. So when you talked about the processes, you know, the process that she elaborated in the book, I mean, when you see the problem, and then how does it come into action, you know, how do you come up with actions? So if a person who has been in this situation where they see many problems around interprofessional relationships, problems around leadership in the environment, how do they come up? So reading Dr. Sally's experience, I believe she had interest to see a change. She had interest to really get involved in seeing a change. So as we take up this book, I just encourage anyone to just saturate the information that is in it, and also encouraging them to get it, to acquire it. I believe that if someone reads this exact book, if she's a midwife, she will not remain the same. At least she will make a decision that, I have seen this for long and I have this potential. How can I make a difference in this area? So it all comes from seeing a problem, and we cannot dwell with the problems. Problems are there, but what is our contribution towards solving them? So thank you very much for that segment. We have had our wonderful panelists through questioning via their insights, and I believe we have benefited a lot from the responses that Dr. Sally has given. So we are now getting into the segment of questions and answer. Please feel free to interact, ask your questions directly, and you can also raise your hand. They will let you in so that you speak to us. And also those ones who are unable to speak, you can please write through the chat so that we get your questions read out, and Dr. Sally will respond to them. So you're welcome if you have any question. Please, you tap on me if there is a question that I'm failing to see. I told you I'm using my phone. I'm trying to thrive here because electricity went off when I had just started the meeting. So I'm thriving using my phone. I don't know, I might miss out some question. So you let me know.
I wonder if I could ask another question, if that's okay. As I said, I started off with the intro of your book, which has got a lot of different topics in it. And one of them that really kind of stood out to me, and we're in June, and June is Pride Month here in the UK as well. You obviously challenge kind of gender diversity and binary, kind of different binaries in midwifery. And I think we're a profession that is really kind of closely tied like with women and kind of women-centered. And that's kind of both with our service users and kind of professionally as well. And thinking about professionally more so, how do we kind of encourage thriving and create space for culturally and clinically, I guess, for midwives that are maybe gender diverse or maybe kind of don't fit into this kind of binary? Sorry, that's probably a really big question.
It's okay. I mean, this area of research is highly controversial, but I believe fundamental and crucial to the profession. I mean, everybody's talking about surface level stuff, in my opinion, which is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but if we go to the foundational stuff about who we are and where we're going and what we're doing, we are the most gendered profession
Yeah.
in the world, both, like you say, for the people we care for and the people we are. And when the Global Millennium Development Goals are talking about gender equity, I just don't think we can ignore that. If we're the most highly gendered profession doing the most highly gendered thing, how can we ignore gender equity? And when sometimes when you talk about gender equity, people think, oh yes, equality for women. Women aren't the only gender, nor are men. There's a a rainbow of genders out there, and it is Pride Month. So it's probably very important for me to talk about this. However, whenever I publish papers in this area, the last couple of years I published, and I've got a real backlash. So it's difficult for me to talk about this stuff, but I will keep talking about it because I think it's fundamental to innovation and change and that professional identity stuff I was talking about. So who do we want to be as a profession? Do we want to be progressive? Do we want to be inclusive? Or do we want to be exclusive? And who does that benefit and why? Do we want to be forward thinking? Do we want to be at the frontier of this amazing change that needs to happen? Do we want to smash those development goals out the park? It's those kind of questions. And if we want to do that, how do we do it? I think it's a lot to do with professional identity, like you say, who midwives think they are and who they need to be. Why is there such a resistance to change? Is it that scarcity narrative of, hey, we're being oppressed and we're being attacked right now. This is all we've got. We must cling on to it, rather than do that bold thing and say, actually, can we reinvent ourselves? Because perhaps now is the time to reinvent ourselves. I mean, when I published one of my papers, the Royal College of Midwives responded with, we would never change our names. We've always been midwives, and while our role has changed over time, our name never will. And I was like, well, you said it, not me. Everything's changed over time, but that, is that
Yeah.
really what we want? Is that, what we can achieve? So this isn't just about being, tokenistic or woke for the sake of it. I think it's a fundamental humanity thinking in terms of if we are the leads in perinatal care, we say we're the lead perinatal practitioners or whatever. If we are leading that, then why aren't we leading gender equity or gender diversity or, all of that stuff? And that's hard and it's uncomfortable and it's icky for a lot of people, which is why I get so much pushback. But what's the danger of not doing it? We stay stagnant, someone else does it, probably the obstetricians, because, and then we're like, oh, why are they going ahead and we're not? So I don't know how we do it yet, but a lot of the work I've been doing is around language and thinking around what our professional identity is. And if you read our study that was done with the Nursing Now Challenge, nurse midwives had a higher professional identity score than midwives did. So midwives think they've got this really strong professional identity. They don't. It's probably an unhealthy professional identity, I would argue, that's in big need of reinvention. So I think there's lots of big work to do, and people will say, why are you bothering with all that nonsense? To me, it's foundational to everything, but I haven't got all the answers yet, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much. It's something that I feel quite passionate about as well. And I just feel like we're seeing more and more kind of diversity come through our doors and come through our triage and come into our birthing unit. And those people should feel just as safe as the women that are birthing. Everyone should feel safe when they come to birth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to leave with a successful and positive view of your birth or of your care. And it just means so much to me that everybody feels cared for. And I feel like if we can start with our midwives and professionally, hopefully that can then kind of come through to our service users as well.
Okay, well, I'll happily share with you the latest papers I've done on that, and I would appreciate your kind of, once you've read them, let me know what you think.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries. Oh, Harriet's muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much for that wonderful discussion. You have talked about gender equity. And also, Dr. Sally, you have also brought up, stressed about professional identity. I believe if we do put that forward, even we forget about the differences in the gender and everything. I remember in one of the conferences, in ICM conferences, I was part of a panel that discussed about those differences and where we belong as midwives. I believe we need to focus more on our roles. And there is no way where we have the opportunity to say that, this deserves my services, or this doesn't deserve my services. So all of us being human beings, and we need life, and we need respectful care. So we actually find out that some of the things in our services, actually, they do not matter. We just need to recognize every person in their respectful capacities and positions. Thank you very much for that. Someone is having a hand up.
Thank you, Harriet. Prof. Pezaro, I get this question a lot about, I liked in the book that you had a chapter on evidence-based practice and academia. And I often get asked by people, what if they want to write in like scientific papers, but they don't necessarily want to do a master's or a PhD. What then should they do?
Well, anybody can write, any midwife can publish. It's more about where do you publish. If you're not linked with a university, or you haven't got kind of a whole research program to publish, you haven't got ethical approval with a hospital or a university, it's more difficult to publish, because then you're more likely to be publishing discussion pieces or literature reviews, etc. And even then, to do a literature review, you need access to libraries and things. So it depends what you're trying to publish, but anyone can publish. And if you're looking for somewhere to publish like entry level, I'm on the editorial board for mid-years. And they're really, really accepting of early career researchers or academics in midwifery who've got something to say or something to publish. And they help you kind of get there. They're really passionate, which is why I'm really proud to be a part of their editorial board, because they're very passionate about helping people who may be a bit nervous about publishing. It's the first time they're doing it, they're not experienced. So I would definitely say do that. But there are opportunities to do master's research and PhD research if people are interested in that alongside clinical work, etc. But you don't have to have those qualifications. But of course, those qualifications do empower you and give you the tools and knowledge and skills to do it in a more it's easier. If you know more, it's easier, basically. But also if you're nervous about doing it by yourself, see if you can pair up with a mentor or someone. So co-authors make it easier sometimes, because you can have more skills on the team and, you know, more eyes on the paper and brains on the table working on the piece. But yeah, it's really important that midwives publish, because they have a lot to say, and if you don't publish it and say it, then it just stays local and nobody knows about it. So it's important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sally. And thank you, Sanel, for that wonderful question, because it also opens to us the opportunity that Dr. Sally is available for guidance on where to publish from and how to get there. And also it's amazing to hear that she's on the editorial board. Thank you very much. We still have 80 minutes. Anyone with a question, we can utilize these minutes so that we have them answered, and then we shall have a closing remarks from myself. And if we do not, okay.
So I just want to give 1 minute to anybody in the audience really want to ask a question. If not, then I can go with my last question. So I think I will just go on. So Dr. Sally, my question is more now is about taking an initiative as a student midwife. So as you said in your early career, when we are very passionate about doing things, and that's where we felt the most kickouts as well, maybe because I felt so when I keep emailing and going to manager's office and discussing ideas. It's more like I get the vibe that I'm being inconvenient to them or disrupting their routine. The one thing that I got from chapter 8 as well is about being the first follower. So as a student midwife, the one thing, if I'm thinking about to do, either I go to my supervisor, would be a senior midwife, or I would go to a manager. Sometimes, and because I do my placements in NHS environment as well, there are lots of laws, and now we have gender equity, the diversity acts and all of this. It has little bit made change the things that they would directly won't say no to you, or don't stereotype you. They would probably say in front of your face, that's an amazing idea, you can go for it, but then you do not see it practically working. So they do encourage you face to face, have those encouraging words, but then they say, ask you, can you email me all these things that you're thinking about? So it's about a real scenario that I'm talking about. For example, I had an idea, I went in and I was encouraged by the chief nurse. I emailed her, got all the drafting, and then she was my first follower according to that book. She really believed in that idea. But then there was nothing, kept email reminding. And then after probably 6 months, I got to know the same idea was discussed with somebody external, and that was implemented in the trust. So because I have no power as a student, no information power either, and they have legitimate power that we're talking about the book, they have information power, they got the idea, and basically stealing the credits as well, probably. So how do we, as students or early career midwives who are just there but have no authority over anything, to go about these things that would actually happening in some of the places?
I think that's really difficult with people stealing your ideas, and I hear about that a lot, which is really, really sad. And there is a lot of politics and things go on. So I think if you're a student midwife or earlier in your career, I think there's two things I would advise. Number one is, write your ideas down so that there's a paper trail of who you told and when. And if you are worried about it being stolen or anything, be careful who you tell, and get things kind of secured either legally or, through patents or whatever, if it's that important. But if you can do things through a structured process, I know it's annoying, but it has more credibility. And when you haven't got that top job, you're lower in your career, you can do things through. So for example, if you were doing a master's program, you could make it not just about getting a master's, but your whole master's could be to do the project you're talking about and actually doing it. Because when you sign up for a master's or a program or a fellowship, there's lots of leadership fellowships and that kind of thing. Mostly nursing focused. I haven't seen any from midwives specifically yet, but then your manager has to sign up time for you to actually do it. Then you say, right, this is what I'm actually doing. And you signed up to say I could do this and I'm doing it. And then you can say, my master's project did this. You publish it, you know, at the end of your master's. And then it's almost like if anyone copies it, it's very obvious that they've copied it. And, you know, they'll either have to cite you as the original owner of it, or they'll say, hey, Sana's done a whole project with this legitimately through a program. We're going to bring her on board as a stakeholder. Or if you get those promotions, you'll be leading that work and thinking about who you bring along the way. So that's one of the things I would say. But yeah, also I would think about how much you want to invest early in your career in those big things, because if you build up your credibility along the way, it may be that that credibility leads to bigger things. So don't think about, it's important to think about changing the world, but that's not the first step. The goal is what's step one, then what's step two towards that goal. So I think going too high too quickly can burn you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sally. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm wondering if there is a very brief question remaining before I wrap up. I think there isn't. We have 2 minutes, and I want to utilize these minutes to thank everyone for attending this important session. And I believe that we have taken something from it. My take and my projection to you is that we have had a number of books in the past, but I found them to be more of academic. The ones guiding me on how to handle a delivery, the ones guiding me on how to perhaps do a certain examination of a mother. But I didn't have the opportunity to read any midwifery book guiding me through navigating different challenges. And I also didn't have any opportunity to meet with an author. I would say that Nursing Now Challenge has done this amazing opportunity that brings these opportunities closer to us from wherever we are, that we are able to even chat with authors, we are able to read directly this information, and we are able to apply them in our different contexts. So what do we have to do with this book? I believe our role is to ensure that we access it and also we circulate it. I mean, circulating the information about it. You might be having a group of midwives somewhere, and perhaps they would need also to read this book. I believe if you reach out to Nursing Now and they need elaborate information about it, for example, this session has been wonderful. I believe any session can be organized so that they get to hear from Dr. Sally and also to get the information about how to access it. I believe Nursing Now has dropped in a link where you can access the book. I'm unable to see it. I'm using my phone, but I'm sure it's there. So I want to wrap up by saying thank you very much, and let's meet another time, perhaps on a different session. But for this book, it's been amazing. Thank you very much, Nursing Now Challenge. Thank you very much, Dr. Sally, for bringing your experience to us to benefit midwifery, and also for sharing your wisdom that you see that can help midwifery and midwives can access it. Thank you very much.
Thank you
I
very much.
want to pause here. Please have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.